Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Michael West's play Freefall, which I'm reading out of Contemporary Irish Plays from Methuen Drama in Bloomsbury. So this is a play basically about a sort of everyman figure, an Irish, just a regular Irish dude, I guess, who suffers a stroke. Much of the play is spent in various flashbacks. Like, this is definitely not linear time. We have jumbled time, jumbled experiences here. The character himself, the protagonist, actually doesn't have a name. In the script, he's just called A. But they decided to make this sort of, this is an everyman figure, doesn't need a name. So we've got that element of it. It's a play that kind of eschews illusion. It definitely does not try and convince us that what we are seeing is real. We're not meant to willingly suspend our disbelief necessarily. It's clear here that there are mediated elements, which is a very common thing in contemporary theater. So I want to read you the sort of stage description, and then the opening bit of episode 1, just giving some background, just what we would see visually, basically. So, in terms of the stage description, it says, a bare stage. Spanning the entire width, there are curtains on a rail that can be drawn open and shut. A screen on which film can be projected. 2 hospital beds on casters which can double as tables. On either side of the playing space, there are wigs and various props. In the script, real objects are marked in caps, all other objects are mimed. There are also a couple of microphones, which the performers use for the phone calls and all sound effects. There are some chairs and a sofa. These wings are clearly visible to the audience at all times. There is a portable camera which becomes A's point of view in hospital scenes, which the carers look into it when they talk to him. In these scenes, the actor playing A stands or sits to one side, watching himself, as it were. As the play begins, the camera is placed downstage center. So then, episode 1, act 1, scene 1, basically. The description here says, the company arranges the space for the performance. This includes drawing the curtains and setting one of the beds as a table bearing the leftovers of a party. Some Indian takeaway trays, wine-stained glasses, and a couple of empty bottles. An image comes to life on the screen. It is a close-up of A, in pajamas, sitting in his kitchen talking to Jack, his 18-year-old son. In the sequence that follows, Jack is off-screen holding the camera. So, I mean, again, this is definitely not a play where we are meant to suspend our disbelief and imagine that we're actually seeing these events on stage. This is clearly an artistic representation of the events occurring. And one of the first things that occurs in the play is A has his stroke. And so what it says here, for stage directions, it says, he goes to clear the table of last night's remains and discovers his right arm isn't quite right. He drops a bottle. He can't tear off a bin liner. He struggles to open it. He tidies away the foil trays. He has a headache and needs a rest. He gets up and tries to walk and finds he is dragging his right leg. So we have this very direct depiction of a stroke here. He goes to the doctor. The doctor, it's an interesting sort of checkup because at one point the doctor unscrews a flap in the back of his head and peers inside and sort of changes the channel by poking around in A's brain, at which point A sort of jumps from topic to topic, like you were switching channels on a TV. So we have this sort of weird, like, mechanical element to it that's kind of never picked up again in the play. But then A has his stroke, and much of the play is sort of centered on this difficulty of making connections with other people. And most of the flashbacks center around this. Because A is not living with his parents. He's living basically with some people who have adopted him. I can't remember what happened to his parents off the top of my head, but he's living with these basically foster parents and a brother. The dad, the adoptive dad, really is not keen on having him around. He's constantly belittling A. The mom is much more supportive of him, and basically they keep A in their house because she insists on it. The brother is pretty much just a dick and torments A in a number of different ways, mocking him, constantly reminding him that he's not really a part of the family, etc., etc. So that's what a lot of it is. There's some awkward flashbacks with like A's meeting the woman who later becomes his wife for the first time, and she and her friend are brought over by his brother when they are in college, and the girls are both drunk. The other girl and his brother hook up in the bedroom. A is trying to study, and the woman who later becomes his wife goes sort of back and forth between throwing up and trying to give him a blowjob, which he doesn't want her to do. Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable scene. We get several other sort of weird things that occur, like the brother kind of forces him to steal a car and go joyriding against A's will, etc., etc. And so much of this play is really just focused on this difficulty of sort of making connections and interacting with people. The other element of it that I think is really interesting is we have this character called the Fungal Man. So this is a guy who has come over to A's house, and basically is like, yeah, you've got like dry rot all over the place. We're going to have to tear out a lot of this, and we're going to have to do some like serious anti-mold stuff here. But the reason that that's interesting is because one of the things that this play sort of responds to is the collapse of the Celtic Tiger economic boom. Because from the 90s up until 2008, the Irish economy was really, really, really strong. And one of the things that the Irish did, which was maybe not great long-term strategy, was they built a ton of stuff. Like, they built way more stuff than they needed. They dumped a lot of money into construction. And when the Celtic Tiger went bust, some of that construction had to be abandoned, the stuff that wasn't completed. But a lot of the value of that construction really dropped dramatically. A lot of the value of that property really dropped dramatically. And so it was not a good long-term financial strategy to rely on land speculation, basically. And so that thematic of like your home has lost value or is losing value. And the Fungal Man here at one point says, you are sitting on a time bomb because of the construction, the way that your home was built. I think it's really an interesting critique of the Celtic Tiger, sort of woven in to this story about the difficulty of building and sustaining connection.